Let me take you back in time and tell you the story of how Israel was born, a tale deeply rooted in thousands of years of history, faith and conflict. This is a land where every stone and every path seems to echo with the footsteps of ancient peoples, and where the past is never far from the present. This land, once called Palestine, has long been a crossroads of empires and religions. Jews, Christians and Muslims all hold it sacred, and for centuries their stories have intertwined here. The hills and valleys have witnessed countless pilgrimages, prayers and struggles for control. Before 1948, it was under British control, home to a majority Arab population and a growing Jewish community, both with deep, unbreakable ties to the land. The streets were alive with a mix of languages, cultures and traditions, creating a vibrant but often tense atmosphere. Cities like Jerusalem and Haifa bustled with life, their markets and ports filled with people from all walks of life, while ancient villages dotted the hills, preserving traditions passed down through generations. Beneath the surface of daily life, powerful currents of nationalism and change were rising. People gathered in the streets, voices growing louder as dreams of independence and fears of loss began to shape the future. The old empires were crumbling, their flags coming down as new ideas of self-determination and national identity took hold across the region. The world was changing, and so was this ancient land. These powerful forces would soon collide, setting the stage for dramatic events that would forever change the course of history in this land of ancient stories. The Jewish longing to return to this land, Zionism, grew from ancient faith and the tragedies of modern history. The Holocaust, which claimed 6 million Jewish lives, made the need for a safe homeland urgent and undeniable. Survivors and Jews worldwide saw a state in their ancestral land as the only guarantee of safety. But this land was already home to a large Arab population with their own dreams of independence. As Jewish immigration increased, tensions and clashes between the two communities escalated, setting the stage for conflict. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed, and Britain took control of Palestine under a League of Nations mandate. This marked the beginning of a new era for the region, as British soldiers and administrators arrived to oversee the territory. Britain was tasked with preparing Palestine for eventual self-government, a responsibility that proved far more complicated than anticipated given the region's diverse communities and competing national aspirations. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration had promised support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, raising hopes among Jewish communities worldwide. At the same time, Britain pledged to protect the civil and religious rights of the Arab majority already living there, trying to reassure the local population that their interests would not be ignored. However, many Arabs felt deeply betrayed, believing Britain had previously promised them independence in return for their support against the Ottomans during the war. Britain struggled to balance these conflicting promises, and tensions between Jewish and Arab communities escalated, leading to frequent riots and outbreaks of violence throughout the 1920s and 1930s. By the end of World War II, Britain was exhausted, drained by years of conflict and unable to find a solution to the growing unrest and violence in Palestine. Unable to resolve the conflict, Britain decided to hand the problem over to the newly formed United Nations, hoping for an international solution. The fate of Palestine and its people would now be debated and decided on the world stage, setting the course for the region's future. In 1947, the UN proposed a bold solution: partition Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab, with Jerusalem under international control. The Jewish community accepted the plan, seeing it as the long-awaited chance for statehood. For Jews, it was a moment of hope and vindication after centuries of persecution. The Arab world rejected the plan, viewing it as a grave injustice and a continuation of colonialism. They argued the land was being divided without their consent. Tensions soared and both sides prepared for confrontation. The stage was set for a historic and violent turning point. As the British withdrew from Palestine in 1948, the power vacuum left behind quickly ignited fierce civil war between Jewish and Arab militias. Tensions that had simmered for decades now erupted into open violence as both communities fought for control and survival in a land each considered home. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion stood before a crowd in Tel Aviv and declared the birth of the State of Israel. For many Jews, this moment was the culmination of centuries of longing, persecution and hope. A new beginning after the horrors of the Holocaust and years of exile. For Jews, it was the fulfillment of an ancient dream, a return to their ancestral homeland. But for Palestinians, this day marked the beginning of catastrophe, what they called the Nakba, as families were uprooted and entire communities faced an uncertain future. The very next day, armies from 5 neighboring Arab nations, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon and Iraq, crossed the borders and invaded, determined to prevent the establishment of the new Jewish state. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War had begun, plunging the region into chaos and bloodshed. Against overwhelming odds, Israel survived the onslaught and not only defended its existence, but expanded its territory beyond what the United Nations had originally proposed in its partition plan. In the aftermath, more than 750,000 Palestinian Arabs fled or were expelled from their homes, becoming refugees in neighboring Arab countries. Many would never return, and their descendants remain displaced to this day. The birth of Israel and the Palestinian Nakba became forever intertwined, creating a legacy of displacement, loss, and enduring conflict that continues to shape the lives of millions. The story of Israel's birth is one of hope and heartbreak, a legacy of dreams realized and dreams shattered, whose echoes still shape the region and its people today.